Hello, and welcome back to Birth and Baby Talk. I'm one of your hosts, Leanne Palmerston, and I'm one of the owners here at Hamilton Family Doulas. And this week, we're talking about gas, burps, and farts. I mean, if you're pregnant and no one's ever told you this before, you're going to be kind of shocked at how obsessed you get with what's going on in your baby's digestive system. And if you are a new parent, you're probably um, rolling in laughter and shocked to discover that babies can actually burp and fart with a loudness and force that is unbelievable. Not to mention, like how forceful they can poop sometimes. If you've ever held a baby in your arms while they've had a bowel movement, and you were touching their bottom at the time, it can be a little shocking to discover that they didn't blow a hole through their diaper. So I have baby Bob with me to help us learn a little bit more about gas in babies, and we're going to just talk about like what's going on and how you can help your baby, because your baby will from time to time appear to be in distress from gas, and there are definitely ways you can help relieve their discomfort. So I want to just talk a little bit first about babies, how they work and how gas like gets into them in the first place, what's going on inside their bodies. So first of all, gas can get into them, A, through drinking, and B, through bacterial action inside their body. Just like you, when you have some Brussels sprouts with your dinner, or you have a bunch of hummus for lunch, at a certain point, you are going to have some gas in your guts, and you are going to have to get rid of it, and probably by farting. Or, when you take a big drink, especially if you're having something carbonated, you are going to, from time to time, burp. And so babies are exactly the same. They're not magic. There's nothing sinister going on with them. We're not doing something wrong to them when they end up with a lot of gas in their system. It's very, very normal. So first of all, I want you to just sit with that for a second. Sit with the fact that gas in babies is normal. It's supposed to be there. It's naturally occurring, and it's not something you did wrong. And it's not, in a lot of cases, it's not something that you actually have to be actively trying to relieve them of. So like a lot of things with babies, it's not really a problem until it becomes a problem. I mean, that's kind of good advice for life, don't you think? A lot of things aren't a problem until they become a problem. And at that point, gas for your baby can be addressed to help them relieve any discomfort they have. But if they do not have discomfort, then they don't have a problem with gas at that moment, and you don't have to be overly concerned with it. So what? Let's talk about again what's going on here. So let's start with drinking. Right, your baby is going to take all of their food in liquid form for the first 6 months of their lives, approximately, and it's going to be either breast milk or formula. It will go in their mouth. They'll drink it either at the breast or from a bottle. And when they drink, just like us, they're going to be bringing in a little air into their system. And naturally, just like us, some of that air escapes through their sinuses while they're drinking. So just like you, when you take a big drink of something, some air is naturally coming into you and going straight back out through your nasal passages as part of an effortless breathing process. Any other air that does get into a baby's stomach can sit there for a little while, and eventually it comes back up. Now, let me tell you something mind-blowing. And I know my colleague, Megan, one of our other regular hosts, totally disagrees with me. However, studies show that that gas will come back up very naturally on its own with little to no effort on your part as a parent. Now let's sit with that one for a second. Do you know what that means? That means you don't have to burp a baby in order to make them burp. Now, some babies will benefit from a little help, and some babies may have things going on in their internal digestive systems that may make a little extra help beneficial. So I'm not saying don't ever burp your baby. Don't ever help your baby. Again, if your baby is in distress, that's when you should be helping your baby. But if your baby's not in distress, there's no special need to help them bring up extra air. Babies have immature esophaguses. And that means, if you have a small baby, you've probably noticed they spit up every once in a while. They spit up their food. Similar to, if you've ever had a burp and a little bit of stuff is a little bit of stomach fluids, or some of the food you ate a little while ago comes back up your throat. Sometimes it can come back all the way up into your mouth. That is esophageal reflux. And for most adults, it's extremely rare when that happens. And it's usually a sign that your stomach is a little upset. With babies, it actually happens quite a lot, because the little muscles, the little ring muscles that close up at their throat to prevent food from coming back up out of the stomach, those are immature, and they can be very lax and open up very easily and open up with very little pressure. So that's the other thing. Babies, because of their immature esophaguses, they don't actually have to push up a burp the way a lot of adults do. And I'm sure you're familiar with that, when you can feel a little bit of pressure in your throat or at the top of your stomach. And there's a way for you to sort of put a little bit of pressure on that, on your throat muscles, in your esophagus, to kind of help expel that gas. And babies don't really need to do that, because very little pressure on that will cause the esophagus to open up and let that gas out. Also, we know from about 3 years ago, McGill University, a group of researchers at McGill in Montreal, did a study that actually looked to see what was going on with burping and babies. And they wanted to answer a question that if we burped babies, did it reduce the amount of throwing up babies did? Because for most parents, that's the number one concern that they have around burping. They see a baby who, spits up after having a feed, whether at the breast or with a bottle. They have a baby who's spitting up breast milk, and God, a baby who spits up breast milk. Now that is sad to see that, because for a lot of us, it takes a lot of effort to get breastfeeding going really well. And it feels awful when a baby sort of just spits it, all that hard work up. So that can feel higher stakes for a breastfeeding parent, especially one who's been going through some challenges. But you see your baby spit up after a feed, maybe immediately after a feed, maybe 5 minutes after a feed, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 minutes after a feed. Some or a lot of that fluid comes back out of them. And the parent gets concerned because, when we look at babies and we look at adults or even small children, we don't see other people spitting up their food like that. And so that seems really wrong and scary to us. It also seems like if a baby does that a lot, they're not going to be getting the nutrition that they need. So parents get really upset and they look for ways to help stop that throwing up, that spitting up, or that like excessive strong spitting up. So the study wanted to find out, if we burp babies, then will they stop doing that spitting up? And what the study found was no. In fact, when we burp babies, by gently striking them on the back, we actually make them spit up more. So they actually lose more of their food when we deliberately pat them on the back. Now, I'm patting Bob with a firm but gentle pat. So I'm not slapping him. I'm not hitting him really hard. I'm giving a pretty standard, firm, flat-handed burp here. And this is going to agitate the contents of his stomach and cause it to be more easy for him to spit up. Other people maybe modify by patting on a bum so that the pressure going upwards is a little more gentle, and that's fine. But when we look at the actual studies that show, this primary study being from McGill, that burping a baby on purpose like this in any way that sort of jiggles them or pats them like this is going to increase that amount of spit up, then we can make the assumption that then stopping that practice is not going to be bad for the baby. It's going to actually preserve more of their food. Now, if you do want to burp your baby, then by all means, if you find that this feels super comforting, and if you've ever seen me before, or you're a client of mine or taken a class with me, then you know I'm a bit of a butt patter. So little baby bums, I tend to pat them, and I readily admit that that is often for my own comfort. But babies do like rhythmic touch. And a lot of babies may find patting soothing. And so I might gently pat a baby, maybe while rocking them, to give them comfort, to give them a loving, caring touch. And that is a good thing to do. I don't want to discourage you from doing that. I want you to keep touching your baby in a very compassionate, loving, kind manner. But you don't need to do this to help baby burp. One thing you can do when you have maybe you're going to switch from one breast to another, or maybe you are going to take a momentary break while pace feeding your baby, or if you have been feeding with a bottle, I encourage you to take 2 or 3 breaks while feeding with a bottle in this classic position. But one thing you can do is when you take your break, brace your baby, put your hand, an open hand like this, on the baby, bracing your fingers around and supporting their little head. Pick your baby up and use your other hand on the back you can make sure that your finger sort of touches here at the base of the skull. And so you can take your baby and just give them a little tilt like this, and they'll almost always burp right away. Another thing you can do is to move your baby in a circle, right? So you can do this while they're sitting on your lap as you break from breastfeeding or from pace bottle feeding. So you just give them a little circle like this, and that often will help them burp, which is great. That's our goal, right? Is making it easy for that air to expel itself without doing anything extra or special. Now, the other thing that parents get really worried about with gas is colic. So I don't want to get deep into colic today, but I will address that because colic is one of those scary things that we know very little about, that we have a million potential remedies for. but very, very little actual data about. Some studies have been done that are not actually very good, but we haven't yet found the actual reason why colic happens. So colic is defined as a baby who has periods of intense crying for 3 or more hours per day, at least 3 times a week. So what is very typical with babies who have colic is they'll do a lot of crying, but they'll often also spit up a lot or throw up a lot. So like expel lots and lots of food out of them. We often call that vomiting. So that's a lot of food. That it'll look like an entire bottle of food or an entire breastfeeding session comes back out of your baby. And it can come out a little while after a feed too. So it's not, the first 5 minutes or so after the feed is not necessarily the danger zone. This can often last for a good 20 minutes after a feed. And so like I said, there is very, very little actual evidence about what is causing, like what are the triggers for colic? And what are reliable remedies for colic? And colic affects about 20 to 30% of all babies. With one study I looked at today, I forgot to tag in my notes what the study was, but if you're looking for the bona fides, I have receipts for you. If you'd like, I can offer. So, but one study said that colic affects up to about 28% of infants, and it causes considerable stress for parents because when a baby cries a lot, parents get upset because a baby's cry is designed to make their caregivers upset, to provoke them to do caring behaviors. Now, when we call caring behaviors, obviously, we mean just doing all the wonderful things for your baby, that everything from giving them a cuddle and singing or talking to them, so just general social interaction with them, to providing food and keeping them clean and safe and dry. And so that actual, what we found is that in studies, crying, long, intense episodes of crying are the number one reason for visits to a doctor or a pediatrician or family practitioner in that first 6 months of a baby's life. That is the reason, the most frequent reason for a doctor visit with a small baby is for crying related issues. And doctors often can't give very good advice. I did find one recent study, I believe it's about 3 years old, and it said it was looking at whether giving probiotics to infants as a supplement or in formula, if that decreased the amount of crying for babies. And what it looked at, or what it discovered, was that for a period of 21 days, regular administration of probiotics orally for babies, I believe it's a liquid form, and I believe the one they used was BioGaia. So I can see if I can find a link to that and drop it in for you guys. But what they found was that babies who had periods of crying for 3 hours or more reduced their crying below that 3-hour threshold. And not only that, but on average, the decrease amount was by about 50%. So if a baby cried for around 3 hours a day, then babies who were taking the probiotic for that 21 days had their daily crying amounts reduced to about an hour and a half, which is a far more, that's far better on parents' nerves and on these little tiny babies' nervous systems themselves. So that's something, while I'm not promoting the use of probiotics, that is definitely a conversation that you can take to your pediatrician or family practitioner if you find that you have a small baby, a baby under 6 months, who does a lot of intense crying. And of course, the period, so what we're looking at is not just even under 6 months. Let me define that a little better. Typically, colic starts to show up around 3 to 4 weeks after birth, and it usually resolves. So babies sort of grow out of it by 3 to 4 months. So you're looking at partway through that newborn period, and with it being resolved by about midway through the first half of the year, or by the end of that first or the fourth trimester. If you think about babies in terms of that first 3 to 4 months being the special post-birth period where babies are still making an adjustment to being like these little air breather persons on their way to becoming full humans. So that's I find that really fascinating and interesting. And again, that starts to tell us a little bit about what's going on inside babies' bodies, that the bacterial action inside them has a lot to do with what's going on in their digestive system and the amount of distress babies are in general, when that distress is related to anything going on in their digestive system. Okay. So, yeah, so we talked about burping, and we talked about, again, like patting a baby on the back is not necessary to help them burp. Most babies do not need any special help to burp. A little bit of gentle rocking can help the air consolidate and move up and through the esophagus. But if you wait a little while, that air will also come up. I want to caution you, though, because I know a lot of people are going to say to me, Leanne, my baby was fussy, and then I burped them, and then they burped, and they weren't fussy anymore. And that's fine. That's great. But I want you to consider the fact that you're patting your baby may actually be the thing that helped them be less fussy. You're giving love and touch, loving touch to your baby, may be the thing actually that calmed your baby. Or that burp may have been able to come out around the same time that you decided to pat your baby. So it's really important that we remember that correlation is not causation, and that your loving behaviors with your baby, cuddling and patting them, being closely associated with them burping and being calm, are not necessarily one thing causing the other. Okay. And that's why that McGill study was kind of genius, because it helped us understand that the burping process isn't necessarily like the classic patting a baby to burp isn't necessarily what is causing your baby's comfort or causing a reduction in throwing up. I want to mention a little bit about Gripe Water too. So lots of families decide to take gas drops. I cannot remember the name. Do I have it written down? I don't think I do. It has a S. Do I have it? No. Okay. So some babies are prescribed gas drops, and so a lot of parents use Gripe Water. Now, studies have not shown, and by not show, I mean studies have failed to show that gripe water or even gas drops have a significant helpful effect on babies. And again, that tells me that what's going on is not necessarily that we need to help that gas get out of the baby, but that when babies do respond favorably to getting something like gripe water, and again, gripe water, so if you aren't familiar yet with gripe water is this clear liquid at its basic, need a drink. At its most basic, it is usually dill oil with sodium bicarbonate, so baking soda, in a liquid suspension. And they often have other things added to them. So most commercial formulations have added a little bit of alcohol and sugars. So, and alcohol, it could be alcohol sugars as well. So there's other things in the gripe water. Sometimes there's a bit of licorice or other things that are known to be soothing to stomachs for adults. Can sometimes be present in gripe water. There is no single formulation. Like I said, the basic 2 ingredients across the board are usually dill oil and baking soda, but one formulation, you might get one at Fortino's, let's say, or like something from the No Name or President's Choice brand, right? Like a house brand or Life brand or Walmart brand, plus stack that up against a company like Jameson Pharmaceuticals or something that makes supplements. So like when we stack all those different brands up, every single one will be different. So it's not like gripe water is not like going to the store and asking for Tylenol and or acetaminophen and receiving the exact same formulation every time that includes the exact same ingredients. They're always different. Sorry, I said that a lot. I just wanted to be clear that, what you're doing is actually you're getting something that can have a lot of different effects on babies, but the main effect is often the fact that you have given the baby something to suck on, like a liquid to suck on. And quite frankly, I don't know about you, but every once in a while, I like to have something like, a little drink of juice if I haven't had juice in a while, or pop a little chocolate or candy in my mouth. That's nice. That's a nice break from the usual. And babies are similar. You can give them that little gripe water and it will be like what is this? Your baby is going to have their pattern of being upset, slightly disrupted. It's a distraction, and it's going to give them something they really like to do, which is like sucking and getting liquids into their belly. So similar to when they are nursing for comfort or having a bottle and sort of snacking on it a little bit, they're doing that for comfort. And gripe water can also be something that a baby enjoys for comfort. Now, I say that not because I think you should do it in order to bring your baby comfort. I'm trying to illustrate that the action that's happening is not because of the ingredients of the gripe water, but merely because the baby is just having a change in their routine. It's similar to when you have a crying baby and you swing the baby like this and suddenly they stop crying because they're like, what is going on? Like, now I'm moving a lot and I wasn't moving a lot before. So sometimes an interruption in their crying, in their discomfort, can itself be a soothing mechanism. So I would recommend instead looking for different soothing mechanisms, because having something like gripe water that we know doesn't have any any scientific backing and has had studies done that failed to show efficacy. Well, I've told you before, I'm a slacker mom, and if I don't have to buy a product, I would like to not just buy that product. I think it's one of those things that sells false hope to parents, and I really want to help you with actual hope. So, instead of gripe water, we can help the baby initially after a feed by just giving them a little rock back and forth. But the other thing we can also do is to give belly massages to baby or give pressure against the baby's stomach. And by giving pressure against the baby's stomach, we can merely take the baby while holding them, so supporting their head and having the heel of the hand pressing into the stomach area and the bowel area. We can hold a baby like that. We can also hold a baby like a football, right? So the baby's head is at the crook of your elbow. You hold them around their diaper, supporting them, and then the weight of their body presses along your forearm. When you have your hand in this position too, the heel of your hand is pressing into their bowels. And that's just going to make baby get lots of good comforting pressure. You can also rub along their backs. Let's move that screen down a little. You can also rub along the back and just gently pat the baby. And again, we're patting the baby not to cause the baby to burp or even fart. We're doing that for comfort. Okay? Just like you might like to be patted and hugged when you're not feeling great. So we're going to do that with the baby as well. The other thing that we can do is we can have the baby up on our shoulder quite high. So I've got Bob sort of lying not like this, but I'm going to have him up over my shoulder because I want the weight of his body pressing down into his belly and his bowels. And then finally, let's just talk a little bit about farting, because that's the other thing that babies do an awful lot besides burping is they fart. And so gas is going to be produced in their bowel. Now, let me tell you something. The gas that gets into their bowel does not get in there because you failed to burp baby well enough initially. So when baby has gas in their stomach, it is not necessarily going to get down into their bowels and cause them great distress. In fact, the baby may be releasing gas through their esophagus without you even noticing. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it comes out through the nasal passages, as we already spoke about. What's really going on here is that they are digesting their foods in their gut with the help of bacterial action. And the bacteria, when they eat our foods, they fart. So the byproduct of bacterial action is gas. And that gas builds up. That's why when you have, say, hummus or lentil soup, and then you get the farts later, it's because that food was a particularly delicious meal for all the bacteria living in your gut. They went crazy eating it and farted out all kinds of byproducts that then have to move out of your body. So if, like babies in the first couple of months, they have to work up the core strength to help themselves go to the bathroom, right? And so I'm sure if you watch TikTok and you're a parent, I don't think you can have avoided any of the hilarious TikToks that feature little tiny babies pooping, or even like toddlers standing like behind sofas who suddenly get little red faces. Those babies have to learn how to do that. And it's the same for farting. So just like they get pressure in their rectum that triggers them to help push and expel all the poop in their system. They're going to get some pressure in their rectum from all the gas that is in there to help expel it. But sometimes that gas isn't just down in the rectum. Sometimes it's elsewhere, and it gives them discomfort. Now, first, that's normal. It happens. It happens to me sometimes. It happens to you sometimes. It's unpleasant, but it's not a problem that we need to medicate. It's not a problem that we need to buy special products for or seek out medical assistance for. I think it's really, really important that we remember that it is a normal process of digestion to create gas. It also doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat special foods. And in fact, one of the things that the study I mentioned before that was talking about giving probiotics to infants as a way to reduce crying, what they found, like they were talking about the fact that when a baby has colic like this, the first thing that parents who are breastfeeding are often recommended to do is to remove certain kinds of foods from their diet. And you should not have to do that. There's a very big difference between a little bit of extra gas in your baby and an allergy. And a little bit of extra gas in your baby's system is transitory. If you had a lot of Brussels sprouts last night and you find that for some strange reason there's a corresponding fussiness with your baby the next day, it's A, almost never because of the Brussels sprouts themselves, but B, that's going to change within about a few hours because babies are pretty efficient little digesters. They're not like us. They don't need 12 or more hours or 8 hours to like have their food come into their stomach and back out of them. They're much faster. They're a little more like dogs who are very predictable with their digestive systems. So just wait. If you're worried that the feed that you gave your baby is going to cause them distress, that baby won't be distressed forever. I promise you. But one thing that you can do is you can help stimulate the bowels to get things moving downwards and out. And you can do that with a really great massage, which I will show you in a second. But first, I want to talk about another product that is sold to parents, which is kind of cool. But also, as a slacker mom, I like to let you know that there are ways to do this very easily without purchasing any doodads, particularly plastic doodads that are disposable that we then chuck out, is the Frida Windy tool. Now, if you've never seen this, it almost looks like I don't know, almost like it always reminds me a bit of a tampon applicator, but it's not flared inwards, it's flared outwards at the ends. And then there's a little sort of stem nozzle on one end. And essentially what this does is you insert the little stem, which is quite short. It's about 1 inch long or less. You insert that into baby's rectum, and any gas that's sitting in the rectum will come flying out. You know what the other thing it looks a little bit like? It's like a white duck call kind of thing. You know, those tube things that you can use almost like a whistle type thing. Too many analogies. I'm sorry. So you stick it in your baby's butt and then your baby farts out. But the baby doesn't really fart, because a fart is more like, when you take a balloon, you blow it up and then you pull the stem and it goes, wee! That's what a fart is like. That tiny little anus is so tight. it causes the gas that's escaping your body to make a high-pitched trumpeting, whistling sort of noise. But when you use a windy, it doesn't make that noise. It just goes because the air is just coming out unimpeded. And you'll be pretty, if you use one of these, they're fun, they're hilarious. Use it, have a good laugh, but you don't need it. And I'll show you how you don't need it now. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to undress baby. I would undress baby all the way down naked. Okay. So let's take off little Bob's diaper. I would definitely have them on like a little blanket on top of it, maybe a portable changing mat, or you can do this. You can do this around a diaper change as well if you want to have baby up on their diaper changing station. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take 2 fingers and you're going to find their belly button. So let's say that this little spot is Bob's belly button. We're going to go underneath that belly button. And we're going to do a couple of different things. So one way to get baby's bowels moving is to do what's called the I love you massage. So you go, I love you. And the idea is that we're trying to help move things through the large intestines down into the rectum so they'll come out. And, your bowels are very susceptible to stimulation from massage. So if you're feeling a little constipated, you might try this yourself or have a trusted person do this with you. So again, you're going to start low on, and you're going to start, this is the left side of the baby. You're going to go up, I, and then here you're going to make an upside down L. And then you're going to make an upside down U. Again, starting from the left, going over to the right, because the bowels are oriented this way. Okay, so they're coming out on my left or my right side. It's technically the left side of the baby. So when I'm looking at Bob, I'm moving from my left to my right, which would technically be Bob's right to left. Clear as mud. So again, starting low on my right side, on Bob's, or my left side, Bob's right, we're going to go upwards to where, just underneath where the belly button is. We're going to go across under the belly and then down Bob's left side, my right side. And then we're going to start at the first position again and just make a upside down U shape. And you can do that a few times. Now, when you do that, you're going to want to press in. This is not a soft surface massage. You need to influence the bowels. So if you can see, I'm pressing in pretty firmly here. Okay, I want you to do that to your baby. You are not going to hurt your baby. I don't want you to try to press into their actual spinal cord, but you're going to sort of dig down just firmly into their bowel area. You're not going to hurt them. In fact, they'll probably really enjoy that pressure. It feels really good for most babies. The other thing you can do is what I call the blade massage. So you take the blade of your hand, you line it up just under that belly button, and then you scoop down to the pelvic, the front of the pelvis, the pelvic bone right there. Okay, so you're going to scoop. So when I'm working with clients, I will scoop maybe 3 or 4 times like this. And again, digging that hand, can you see that? Digging that hand into the bowels and pushing down to the pelvic bone. And then I'll do it again, but I'll have the baby's feet up. So I'm going to try to keep the feet up with one hand here just for demo purposes. But again, I'm going to sort of dig down and push down into that pubic bone while holding the baby's legs straight up. Again, this is putting pressure on baby's intestines and stimulating them. The final thing I'm going to do is little bicycle legs. So I can do this with baby. So I can tuck baby's knees up towards their chest, but I can also grab each leg separately. And of course, I'm trying to hold Bob and do this so it doesn't look as easy, but I'm just bicycling his legs into his chest, okay? His knees up towards his chest. Again, putting all this pressure and massage style pressure into his bowels. I promise you, within about an hour or so, your baby will probably have a big poo. This is a great one for babies who are a little constipated, especially after that first 6 weeks. A lot of babies' bowels will sort of slow down a little. At first they poop. It seems like they poop about like 5 or 6 times a day. And then a lot of babies after around 6 weeks will sort of slow down their digestion a little and start to poop. Like some babies like once a day. Some babies might poop once every 2 or 3 days. It's within the realm of normal to go longer than that. But I always think that if your baby's only pooping like once a week, then maybe they need to be drinking a little more formula or breast milk. But that's not something that I'm diagnosing here over this video. That's something you should check in with someone about. But when you provide all of that stimulation to the bowels, you're going to get stuff moving. You are probably, if your baby has gas right then and you're doing these things, you're probably going to produce a fart right away. You may even have a baby just start pooping right away when you put some pressure on their bellies. And so make sure you have some cleaning supplies near you. And I take no responsibility if they just shoot poop like 2 feet out of their butt because of this extra stimulation you're giving them. I'm sorry if that happens. I don't mean for that to happen to you. This wasn't an elaborate prank. Babies can be very forceful little poopers sometimes, especially with that extra stimulation. So that is how we help a baby be more comfortable when the gas inside their body is making them uncomfortable. And if the gas in their body is not making them uncomfortable, you don't need to do anything special at all. You do not have to buy special supplements. You do not have to buy special tools to take the air out of their butts. You do not have to buy them special drops to settle their stomachs. You do not have to buy special baby bottles with extra doodads and doohickeys inside to relieve the amount of air that gets into their bodies. It's not clinically proven at all. You simply have to give baby the time and space to let their bodies do what they're going to do. And if they show signs of distress, give them some comfort, give them a massage, give them a little tilt, give them some bicycle legs, and you will help relieve their discomfort. And if that doesn't help, then it might not be the gas that's doing it. They just might be lonely or cranky, because sometimes babies just cry for pretty much no reason at all. It's very normal for a baby to cry. It doesn't mean that you're failing as a parent. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong. And it doesn't mean your baby is sick. Okay? I hope this helps you, because I know how much helping babies burp and fart can be a mystery, and B, distressing for parents. And I'd like to try to take some of that distress out of things for you. If you have any specific questions, please leave them in the comments and we will absolutely come back and answer things for you. And if you have a future topic that you'd like to talk about, because this was a topic recommended to us by a new parent, please let us know in the comments and we'll add it to our schedule coming up. Next week, we're going to be talking about setting the stage for great sleep. So you're definitely not going to miss it. I feel like I say that every week, and every week we talk about really important information here. I hope you love these videos. If you do, let us know. Share them with a friend and sign up for our newsletter so you never miss any episodes, and you're always able to get the printables and handouts that we create for you. And if you think that you could benefit from doula support, sleep support, birth support, postpartum support, night nanny support, belly binding support, any of those things, definitely get signed up to our newsletter. We'll leave the link in the comments because every month we give people special secret coupons just for our listeners. Take care, everyone. Can't wait to see you next week.